Hey, this is Dirk Nowitzki, and you listen to the Mavs Step Back podcast.
I like this, TK. I like that. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk get the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. Luka with the ball, yeah, get nasty. He'll drop 30, don't gotta ask him.
Luka with the step back three. Oh, yeah! Porzingis three-pointer, yes, sir. Taking the three after the pump fake, and it's money for Porzingis.
Now you got my boy Chris Stabs, looking like Dirk and Nash in the gap. They just want a ring, wanna fill the gap on your team head. I ain't talking hats, dang, go relax. Still at the champs, defense still coming with the cannabis flow. The man's the best on the flow. I'm wild, but yeah, I'm the GOAT. This gang get
How's it going, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mavs Step Back podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg, and tonight, Matt Galatson is not with me, but it's my little brother, Colton Trigg. Colton, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are all the MFLs doing in this world?
So, a little backstory about Colton. He went to Mississippi State University. He graduated in chemical engineering, and he recently moved out to Iowa for his job. And, every year, my family, we get together in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. That's been a tradition forever. So it's always nice to be around family this time of year, and it's good. I'm glad that you're back for a little bit.
Me too.
But anyway, so we're gonna do a brief recap here. Tonight, the Mavs went into Houston and they beat the Rockets 137-123. Yeah, the Rockets made it close. They got within 5 in the fourth quarter, but Luka was just too much. He scored 13 of his 41 in the fourth quarter. Clutch as always. I mean, they really blew the Rockets out more than what the final score would indicate because the Rockets hit a couple shots at the end there. But overall, it was a really great win. Mavs moved to 11-5. They're currently tied for the 3rd seed in the West, and they've won 5 straight games. So, I mean, what's your initial thoughts from this big road win in Houston?
Well, I like how they're winning, and I think that today might have been a misrepresentation of what we can do against the Rockets. I think it could be probably a little bit more close. Of course, I don't think Hardaway is going to score, like 31 points like he did today every night. He's probably not going to be in the starting lineup here in a couple of weeks. Who knows? It might be Curry. So thinking he could score 15 or 17, it would make this game pretty close. It would make it go down to the wire.
Yeah, and Hardaway, he's one of the more streaky players in the league because he can go. We saw it a week or so ago where he went 0 of 5, and I think Rick Carlisle benched him after maybe 15 minutes or so. And then you have, these last 3 games, he's went 13 of 20 from the three-point line, so that's 65%. He's raised his three-point percentage up to almost 37% on the season. When he's hot, he's just really hot. It's hard to stop him. So it's really nice to have that going on right now. But, like you said, it's probably not going to last. But, Luka, it's every night now. And we're witnessing an all-time talent. And it really hasn't fully sunk in yet. Partly because it's so shocking that he's doing it so early.
To be so young and to go out there and do what he's doing every single night, I think probably like the past 10 games, he hasn't had any number lower than 6 in the rebound and assist column, and probably not lower than 24 in the scoring column. He's already looking like he knows he's like the next LeBron coming out there. He might not can jump and dunk and do all that, but he can get by people and he can score in the lane. I don't know what he's shooting. I know it's high from the inside of the paint, and I know his three-point shooting is a little bit low right now, but it's going to get better as he goes throughout the season, and he's going to find better shots, and I hope he keeps on driving and creating, and I know him and KP are going to make a bond and hopefully wind up in the playoffs. I know they're on the right track right now.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the season, and if you, we have to own the Knicks losses because that was just, I don't know, that was just on them. They weren't playing well, but if you take into consideration that Lakers loss, which definitely should have been a win, they missed that call on Seth Curry. Dwight Howard fouled him, and they didn't call it, and they ended up going to overtime and losing. So that should have never happened. They should be 12-4 right now. So. But 11-5 is good. They have the best point differential in the entire league right now, which, back-to-back 40-plus wins and then a 14-point win on the road, that helps. But, I mean, they're really gelling. And Kristaps Porzingis hasn't, done what we've expected him to do yet, but he's getting there. And once he does get there, it's just going to be, it's really scary for the rest of the league because they're already playing so well.
Well,
and it's only going to get better.
Well, on top of that, the Mavs bench is scoring 44 points a game, and I don't think that's going to change because,
yeah.
One night, Brunson, Jackson, Hardaway, DeLon Wright, any of them can score 20 points if they want to. And someone's going to always come out and be that guy. So you're going to have those 44 points. I don't think that's going to change because the Mavs are so deep. So when Porzingis starts adding that extra 10 points a game, which I think he can and he will once he gets comfortable and he starts knocking down some of the shots he's been missing, they're going to be scary.
Yeah.
They're going to be that poor third seed in the West, and I think they can make a playoff push pretty far right now. Yeah,
I think if you look at Luka's last, string of games, 10 to 12 games or so, you said that, the lowest point total he's had in that stretch has been 24, and that was that game at Memphis, and he really only played two and a half quarters in that game. That was another blowout. So, he's doing all of it. Even tonight, he had 41 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds in 34 minutes. And he was 15 of 29 from the field, hit 5 of his 14 three-pointers, 6 of 8 free throws. So, an outing like that, and then to out-duel, James Harden, who is a former MVP, he ended with 32 points and 11 assists and 9 rebounds. And he only shot 11 of 24 from the field, and he played 7 more minutes than Luka. So, it's not that he's just putting up empty stats. He's doing it against elite competition, and it's just amazing. It just hasn't fully sunk in yet. What we're watching, and the fact that we've gone from Dirk to this dude just automatically, and he's 20 years old and he's doing this. Like, man, we were watching the game earlier and we're just like.
We haven't seen this in so long. It's hard to imagine what's happening right now. We can't even comprehend what's happening. That we got so lucky.
Yeah, we were talking about this time last year. There were 2 separate 6-game losing streaks that the Mavs had before the new year, and the way this team is constructed now and how they're playing, it's hard to see that ever like they'd have to have catastrophic injuries for that to even be, something we even imagine happening this year. They're too good to let something like that happen. And it's great to see. They're probably not going to lose consecutive games very often. And, where they're at in the standings now and how they're playing and how the rest of the West is playing when you get down to those, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seeds, I don't think it's out of the question that they could challenge for home court advantage now.
I could see it. I'm looking forward to seeing this Clippers game Tuesday because it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great matchup because both teams are deep, in my opinion. They have 2 stars. A lot of defense is going to be being played on the Clippers, but we have the number 1 offensive rating in the league right now. So it's going to be a great matchup. Hopefully we get the win. But if we don't, hopefully it'll just be a close game.
Yeah, I think it'll be competitive regardless. But, I mean, they always say that no matter how good of defense you play, you know, better offense trumps better defense. And like you said, they have the number one offensive rating in the league. They almost scored 140 points for the third consecutive game. Just firing on all cylinders right now. And as good as Luka's playing, if he doesn't get stopped on Tuesday, then I don't know who's going to stop him the rest of the season, because you've got a defensive trio of Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. And if those three can't slow him down, then I don't know who's going to stop him the rest of this season.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to see Tuesday, because I don't want to see load management. I want to see the Clippers at their best, playing all their guys, and I want to see the Mavs win. Because if they can do that, then they're a legit third seed in the Western Conference. Because the Clippers are that good, and I think they could end up being the second or even the first seed if they can top the Lakers. So,
yeah, that's another thing. If you don't know if the way the Clippers have done, you know, thus far this season, you never know if Paul George is going to be playing, if Kawhi is going to be playing at the same time. But I mean, like you said, you want them to play. You want to have that challenge, because as good as the Mavs are playing right now, you want to have those kind of tests to where it's like it confirms what our eyes are seeing right now. It's not just like, okay, they beat Houston, who had lost 2 straight before that game, or they're beating up on the Clevelands and, you know, teams like that. So I hope they're at full strength. I know the AAC will be rocking for that one. They'll be doing it in style. It'll be the first game they show off those new graffiti-themed City Edition jerseys, so that'll be nice. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. And then after that, they'll travel to Phoenix, and then I think they'll travel to Los Angeles as well. So a couple more tough games in this stretch, but hey, they passed the first test on the road in Houston with flying colors. So,
and as they progress through the season, I really hope, I hate to say this, but almost like the Houston Rocket mindset of, we're either going to take a 3 or we're going to score in the paint, because I feel like that's what they're best at doing, especially with Luka leading them. I want to see him starting off the games, driving, getting buckets 2 feet away from the rim, and then everyone else on this team can pretty much shoot threes. And I just want to see him, once he starts driving, start kicking it out, which he's been doing it already these past 5 games, and I think that's why they've been winning. They've been knocking down their threes, and I hope that stays the same. And I hope people, when someone's down, they start pulling them back up.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the benefits of having a guy like Luka, who not only can score 40-plus points on any given night if he wants to, but he's always looking for his teammates, and he encourages them, and he makes them as confident as they can possibly be. Because, I mean, you know, Dorian Finney-Smith, he's had a great start to the season.
Yeah, he's been playing great.
He's always energetic. He does all the dirty work on the defensive end. His three-point shot's been falling lately. That's a prime example of a guy that's playing a notch above what he probably, you know, actually is, because he's playing with Luka. And the whole rest of the roster is doing that. So, I mean, yeah, I think we'll continue to see that going forward. Like I said, they play the Clippers, then they play at Phoenix, at the Lakers, and then at the New Orleans Pelicans.
And I think we could definitely beat Phoenix and New Orleans, and I'm going to really like to see LA and Los Angeles.
Well, we owe the Lakers one after how that
I know
after how that last one ended. So, but yeah, I mean, the Mavs are in a great spot right now. Rick Carlisle, I mean, you can tell he's kind of let go a little bit this year and let Luka do whatever he wants to do. He's not, you know, calling as many plays as he was last year. He's just letting it flow. And that's when this offense is at its best. I've said it in the past. I've written about it. I've mentioned it in a couple of previous pods. But this team reminds me of that pre-Rondo team that had Jameer Nelson and Chandler Parsons, Tyson Chandler. It reminds me of that team. They were also one of the best offenses in the league. But the difference, I think, is, this team has a lot more defensive potential than that team did because across the board, they're longer. They've got, better athletes than that team did. So.
I mean, if you think about it, the way Dorian is playing and DeLon Wright is playing, when you have those guys on the court, they're going to bring the defense all the time. And if they're making threes, if they're driving and scoring layups, getting and-ones.
That's just a bonus.
It's just a bonus. It really is. And then if you have Luka and KP out there, I mean, what are teams going to do? I mean, they can get in the pick and roll, kick it out, and anyone can make a play on this team. And I think in the long run, that's going to be huge because defenders are going to have to respect Luka. They're going to send 2 or 3 guys at him. They're going to have to, or else he's going to score.
They're going to start defending Luka the way the Mavs defended Harden tonight.
Which I thought was great.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great strategy. They sent at least 2 people at Harden the majority of the night, forced him to pass it out. They forced the rest of the Rockets team to try to beat them. And, I mean, that strategy worked out great because, as it turns out, the Rockets supporting cast just isn't as good as the Mavs. We knew that going in, and they pretty much, proved that.
They weren't doing that when that lead got drawn into 5 points.
Right.
And they started doing that, and look what happened. Harden had to kick it out, and even if he had to kick it out to Westbrook, I mean, it's still a better option than letting Harden just shoot all over you.
Yeah, because, I mean, earlier in the game, they started out doing that, and they got off to a fast start, and they had a lead of up to 20 points at one point in that first half. And then, like you said, there was a little time lapse in there where they started letting Harden get past them and driving into the lane and, kind of doing what he's used to doing. And that's when it started to get close. So it was good to see them go back to that strategy they started the game with, and it worked out great. And, we're talking about Porzingis. He's had a couple of bad games to start this year. He's still not anywhere, close to where he could be. But tonight he had a really, really good game. He scored 23 points. He had 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block in 34 minutes.
And some of those points came in very timely moments.
Yeah.
Where it expanded the lead to double digits, and it gave that separation we needed to finish off this game.
Yeah, like one of his buckets late, it was a critical moment in the game. The score was within single digits, and it almost looked like the ball deflected off of Maxi's hand. I don't know if he meant to tap it over to him or if it deflected, but KP kept it from going out of bounds and just went in for the dunk. And
it's nice to see.
that was a great moment for him, and he was a team high plus 32. That was great to see because there's been a lot of games this year where he was, he had a negative plus minus in the box score, and that's what he said lately. He said he's been focusing on doing the little things. He's been focusing more on the defensive end and getting the rebounds, and he's just letting the offense come to him. And, I mean, he's just scratching the surface of what he could be. So they're building team chemistry right now. That's kind of like a blessing in disguise because, while he's been struggling, Luka, he's just, he's been doing his thing. The rest of the team has been gaining confidence, and they've been contributing in a big way. So I think once we get, towards the end of this season, this is going to be a really, really well-oiled machine. And I'm really excited because it looks like we're heading to the playoffs. And once you get in and you have Luka Doncic on your team with a resurgent Kristaps Porzingis, I mean, anything can happen.
I would like to get your opinion. With this team, I think we can make a good playoff push. I'm wondering if you think there's one guy we can get in a trade probably that could push us to final status right now. Who would that be? and who will we get for him?
Well, I'd have to. I mean, I don't want to be repetitive here, but I wrote a piece here recently on MavsSI.com about how trading for a guy like Blake Griffin would be, huge for this team. And I really believe that because basically it's like tonight. They started Dwight Powell. The starters were Luka, Tim Hardaway Jr., Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell, and Porzingis. And Powell, he played 26 minutes. He scored 2 points, had 5 rebounds. He was a negative 15 in the box score plus minus, which was by far the worst of anybody else on the team. And he's just struggled more this season than what I thought he would. And before the season, we were talking about how he might be a good fit with Porzingis in the front court. And for whatever reasons, whether it's that hamstring injury he had in the preseason or maybe he's just simply regressed a little bit, it just hasn't worked out. So, I mean, if you can imagine plugging in a guy like Blake Griffin into what we hoped Powell would be with Porzingis, I mean, that alone, pushes you to title contention. And, I mean, the way the Mavs are playing right now, if they come out Tuesday and they waylay the Clippers the way they've been doing the rest of these teams, I mean, we're going to be talking about them being in title contention as is.
I know that's the good part about it.
So, I mean, it might be a little early to be talking about a big trade like that, but I mean, I could see something like that happening, and it's not like it's going to affect, it's not going to like hurt Luka's numbers or him, having the ball in his hands, because Blake Griffin's a power forward. And you can play KP at the 5. He's good enough defensively, you can do that. So I think, having Blake Griffin and KP as your front court, you would achieve maximum offensive flexibility there. And I really don't know. In that piece, the trade I proposed was Jalen Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., the 2025 first-round pick, top 5 protected, and the Warriors' second-round pick this year, which figures to be pick number 31 or 32 because they've just been awful. I don't know if that'd be enough to get it done. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been playing so well.
Yeah, right now.
They may want to think about pulling the trigger on something like that now if they're thinking about it, because he's playing so good. But, I mean, I don't know. We've seen crazier things happen. We didn't think the Knicks would take the package that they did for Kristaps Porzingis, and, that went down. So, never doubt Donnie Nelson. But I don't know. That's what I think. I mean, are you kind of on the Blake Griffin train?
Well, I would definitely be on the Blake Griffin train, no doubt about that. I would love to get him. And the Pistons are sitting at 5-11 right now, and
yeah, they've been disappointing.
So are the Cavaliers. And what do you think about Kevin Love? Because the Cavaliers are in a rebuilding mode right now, and Kevin Love's getting a little old. He might not fit that.
I like Kevin Love, and I like the idea, of him, how he would play alongside KP, but the only thing that has me wanting Griffin over Love, there's 2 things actually. One is the length of contract, because Kevin Love just signed a 5-year extension, and he's not getting any younger, and that is a lot of money he's making for 5 years. Blake Griffin, he's on contract for 2 more years after this season. And then the second thing is, even though, Griffin, he's not as athletic as he used to be because of some of the injuries he's had, he's still athletic enough that you can play him the same way they want to play Dwight Powell. He's a vertical threat. He's a lob threat. But unlike Powell, he's also a threat to shoot threes. So, to me, it would just be a perfect fit. And I know some people don't think that. I've seen some people, react to that piece I wrote, and they think we should go after Andre Drummond instead of Blake Griffin. But I'm just thinking of offensive flexibility, and I don't see how anybody the way the Mavs are playing now without him, if they plug Blake Griffin into Dwight Powell's spot, then I just don't see how anybody could stop us.
See, I wouldn't really want Andre Drummond. I feel like that would disturb what we're doing right now. It'd be like us having DeAndre Jordan again.
He's very similar to DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
He wouldn't be able to spread
Prime
the floor
DeAndre.
like we are right now. I feel like that would crowd Luka taking those drives that he's getting on a consistent basis and doing so efficiently. Because you would have Andre Drummond in there, and he's not going to go to the three-point line.
Yeah, and I mean the whole Blake Griffin thing too. That's what we call a pipe dream. I mean, it's one of the bigger trades, but I mean, I could see even some smaller trades. Like my co-host Matt Galatson, who's usually on here with me every week, he wrote a piece too, and he had a couple of nice names in there, and one of those names was Bogdanovich from Sacramento.
I would like him.
And as well as he's been playing, I mean, you would think that Sacramento wouldn't trade him, but they've already paid Harrison Barnes. They've already paid Buddy Hield. And then Bogdanovich turned down their contract offer to him, and he still hasn't signed an extension. So it'll be interesting, and he'll be a restricted free agent this next summer. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him around the trade deadline. But that's a piece that's a guy that I could see the Mavs getting, and it not being as much of a pipe dream as what Blake Griffin is. And it doesn't hurt that he's good friends with Luka Bogdanovich, that is. So that you'd have instant chemistry there. But you got anything else you want to say, or we're going to wrap this thing up?
Gordon Dragic. I still want him.
Man, Matt, if you're listening to this, you're going to love my brother now, because he is on the Goran Dragic train.
I would still like to have him. I wish we would have got that trade going.
That was one of the more. Matt was devastated when Goran was going to be a Maverick, and he was for about 15 seconds until it got corrected on Twitter. He was very devastated. But yeah, I agree. That would be a big ad if they could somehow make it work before the trade deadline. But we'll see. And I mean, like I said, the way the Mavs are playing right now, they may end up being content with this current roster and, end up being title contenders just as they are. And that would be amazing.
I think right now they can definitely make it to the second or third round of the playoffs. And that's not a far stretch, because if they keep up the same pace they're going at right now, they're going to be okay. They're going to be good.
Luka is a top 3 to 5 player in the league right now. Right now he's playing as the best player in the league, but he's that good. And once you get in the playoffs and you have that guy on your team and some of the people they have around him, I'm not going to bet money against him. So it's going to be a good rest of the season. Looking like we're finally going to get back to the playoffs after a 3-year drought. And I mean, it was just great to see them blow out the Rockets at their place on a Sunday afternoon game. So, guys, that's going to do it for another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. Appreciate y'all coming in and listening to us every single week. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Go to our YouTube page and subscribe on there. When we get to 1,000 subs on YouTube, one lucky winner will win 2 tickets to the Mavs game of their choice. That's any Mavs game, home or away. You'll win 2 tickets to if you go subscribe on YouTube. You'll have a chance. So only the first 1,000 people will be entered into that. So be sure to do that. Anything else, Colton?
Go Mavericks.
Go Mavericks. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Y'all have a good one.
A lot of times feel like I was on the road to nowhere. Tell me why all these people up in my face acting like I know them. Feeling like Luka Doncic, rookie of the year, I'm the coldest. God speaking through me every single track, prophet like Moses. Asking why I gotta wait till I'm dead to go and get my roses. Feeling like Mavs 2019, grinding unfocused. I used to go to bed at night discouraged, so hopeless. friends chose drugs to cope with. Now I'm reading all these hating comments, man, it got me in motion. I had to whip up the potion, I ain't even with the boasting. I was just broken, way down to my lowest, getting swallowed by them locusts, letting God do the coaching. I had to go through a lot just to realize that I'm chosen. Carry away, felt like boulders, all of those slams shut. Had to bulldoze them. Name a rapper dude who can see me over wax. I'm just trying to spit the facts. Way I spit my flow, people telling me relax. I just get it double back. I just get it double back. They still asking for more and I gave them my last. Can't never seem to let go of the past. And that's sad, I just sit back and reflect. Oh my God, they really feeling the kid. Family calling on the phone, almost a star. True, look what you did. About to put Silk right back on the grid. Go kill a beat and go listen to Trigg. Turn on my phone and I listen to Matt.